Hello fantastic creatures and fantasims, and the Sims team just did an official 1.5 hour live stream digging into the new game pack, the Dream Home Designer game pack. And for those of you who don't want to sit through an hour and a half of a stream, I'm going to give you a quick recap in the order of the things that they discussed to help you guys out. Okay, so they talked about how this pack is all about new sleek modular furniture, and this kind of function has never been done in the Sims franchise before. So they did classify this pack as having the mid-century modern decor style, and they didn't really go into detail with a lot of the build by objects. They did go into detail with the modular stuff that we're going to look into in a second, but it did focus a lot on gameplay, and let me tell you guys, the gameplay is really exciting, so I can't wait to dig my hands into this pack. And one of the focuses for this pack was they wanted a way to connect more with the NPCs, so the non-playable characters like Johnny Zest, the pancakes, all of them. It's a really awesome way to get your Sims to interact with them and connect with them on maybe a more personal level than gameplay normally allows. So that new empty cell in CAS, where you usually pick out traits and aspirations for your Sim, there's a new cell, as many of us have mentioned in our speculation videos. It's a new feature for the likes and dislikes. That's actually coming in a free update in a couple days, May 27th, and you can choose your likes and dislikes, and you can choose up to 20 total. So there's different categories. There's the favorite color, music genre, activities, and then the one that's exclusive to the Dream Home Decorator pack is the decor, so their favorite styles of decor or least favorite. And there's also the ability to acquire some through gameplay. So they suggested that you don't fill all 20 up. So what they mean is, like, if you go into the favorite color category, you can actually pick several different favorite colors, and you can choose colors that you dislike. So you can have up to 20 likes and dislikes. Kids will also have all the base game likes and dislikes, but they won't have the decor one that's exclusive to Dream Home Decorator. In CAS, they wanted a bit of dress up and building clothes for when they're renovating to mimic home decor shows. So they've got a lot of grungy, paint splattered type of outfits and utility belts and stuff like that. But then they've also got slightly dressier clothing for when you do the big reveal with your clients. So there's 4 new hairstyles for females, and with the new free update on May 27th, there will also be the new swatches that we've been waiting for. So a ton of new hair swatches will be coming out. There's 9 full body outfits for females, 9 bottoms, 9 tops. For the male category, there's 2 male hair, there's 2 full body outfits. Some of the outfits are going to be locked and they come through gameplay. Then there's 3 bottoms, and they came out with something called a utility kilt, which is basically a kilt tied into a utility belt. You know, they've always got to add those funky quirks, which is hilarious. There's 6 tops, and they said that, like the furniture, it has a very Scandinavian influence, and they stuck with more vivid colors, but they're pastel vivid colors. So they're very bright and colorful, but they also have more of a pastel tone to them. I mean, I'm not Scandinavian, so you guys will have to let me know if these kinds of clothing are actually Scandinavian style. Now for the kids, there's 1 new hair, there's 1 full body outfit, there's 2 tops, and there's 3 bottoms. And then for the toddler, I think it only comes with 1 top, which they always seem to leave out toddlers, which I'm not a huge fan of, but that's okay. But there is at least a pretty decent selection for adults and kids. Oh, they also did mention that the clothing swatches, they did it purposefully to tie in a lot to the pastel tones of the furniture, so their clothing will actually kind of match the furniture as well. Okay, then most of the time they spent digging into gameplay, and we're just going to walk through point by point what they discussed. So you can level up to business interior designer. I don't know if there's a level higher than that, but that was the level at which the sim they were using was playing at. You can look for gigs and select from a range when you rank up in your career. So the higher you are in your career, the more options you will have for gigs, which is really exciting. And there's 4 different categories of gigs. There's room renovation, where you can only access 1 room. There's a room addition, so you can actually add a room to the home by adding tiles and walls. There's a level renovation, you can renovate an entire level. And there's a level addition, where you can add an entire level to their home. So it seems you can't renovate an entire home at once, but you renovate sections of a home. But you can always go back to those homes and renovate other areas. Personally, I'm kind of bummed that you can't renovate an entire house in one go. For gameplay purposes, I can see the benefit of doing that, because you get to interact with NPC townies several times, so you get to go back and play with their likes and dislikes and whatever. But I would have liked also the option to be able to do the entire home. So you start with 3 likes and dislikes from your client, and you get more likes and dislikes available when you level up. That's also something exciting. They really did an amazing job at creating story progression with this pack. So the gameplay is so much deeper than I think probably any other pack that we've had. You can correct me, I'm more of a builder than a game player, but the gameplay just seems really exciting. You can also do commercial lots when you build up your reputation. So you can actually start with like doing a small renovation, like doing the commercial bathroom, and then they might call you back to do a bigger project for that building. And there are 52 gigs to choose from. I think they mentioned 52 gigs, and I don't know whether that's just based on because they were playing with the new game pack and base game, or if you get more gigs if you own all the packs, but they had just mentioned 52 gigs to choose from, and not all all of those are going to be available when you first start, when you're at your early levels of the career. You have to level up for those things. You have to level up for more gig options. And it pulls from every household across all the packs that you have, which is really exciting. So you'll be able to do renovations in any of the world with any of the NPC townies. So when you hover over each gig, they've created these really fun descriptions for each of the gigs that reveal the personality of the clients a bit in a humorous type of way, which it just adds more fun to the gameplay. And the more you level up in your career, the more likes and dislikes slots you will have to learn more about your client. They didn't mention what the maximum slots were, but in the live stream footage, it showed 4 different slots, and the sim wasn't entirely leveled up to the max in her career. So I don't know if you'll gain 1 more. So you start off with 3, and I don't know if 4 is the limit or if there's more than that. Gigs, I think they mentioned that gigs always start at 9 a.m. So you can always set up your gigs the night before so that you have something to go to the next morning. And they even mentioned that Vlad has a gig that is apparently very funny. And so the gigs will actually match the personality of the NPC. So they've already gone through all of the NPCs in the game for every pack, and they've predetermined their likes and dislikes, and they've given them multiple. And we'll get into that a bit later, but that means that each time you show up to their lot, it's going to pull from a different selection of their likes and dislikes. So each time you visit them, you'll always get some new type of gameplay because it'll always be a different mix of their likes and dislikes, if that makes sense. As for the style of the pack, they mentioned that they tried to mix mid-century and Scandinavian style together, even though they said that Scandinavian style is what kind of promoted the mid-century modern to come back into style or something like that. I don't know. And they also mentioned that the pastel color palette they used for this pack, they tried to match all the color ranges so that nothing pops out too much and stays balanced, so that it blends with other packs a lot better. And it means that if you want to use an object from another pack that's very different, it can be like the accent piece for the room, but they didn't want any of the objects from this pack to stand out all by itself. Like, for example, they didn't want to create this super funky chair that stands out from everything else in the pack. They wanted it all to kind of flow in seamlessly and kind of blend together well, so that you can create your own accent moments with objects from other packs. If I'm understanding them correctly, that's basically what they said, which I can appreciate that. In my previous video, I did kind of criticize the style of the pack a bit, which I don't think everyone enjoyed, but to me, it just felt a bit outdated because I've been seeing this exact same style for like over 20 years now. And so to me, it didn't feel that modern. But after seeing more of the objects, I do see how they've created it in a way that it does flow pretty well with other packs. And whether you think that's a positive or a negative thing, that's totally up to you. I know that some people made the valid point that that cross-pack compatibility has always been kind of an issue. So it is helpful to have a pack that has objects that do tie into other packs so well. And I do think that even though this style might not be right up my alley, they have created a pretty good range, and they've kept the colors. They are quite colorful, but also neutral in their colorfulness, if that makes sense. So because it's like brightly colored pastel colors, they're not so bright and vivid that they're very specific, you know, because you want to be able to decorate for a range of clients. So I understand what they mean by not having any one object stand out too much, because like Get Famous, for example, those furniture choices with like zebra prints and whatever animal prints, they're very specific and they don't blend well with a lot of different clients for interior design. So I can understand what they meant by trying to make things that just kind of blend together well, and that way you can come up with your own unique moments in your own designs. Anyway, let's move on. So as we talked about before, bunk beds can now slot desks underneath them, dressers, double beds, and love seats. So they already mentioned that in the previous live stream, but they showed it again, and they showed 4 new bunk beds. There's a kid's bunk bed, a teen bunk bed, and then 2 other bunk beds. And as previously mentioned, this pack is easier to coordinate because they made all furniture match together with the same kinds of swatches and styles. And they did emphasize this point, and I really appreciate that across the pack, all the objects and the swatches really match. My only criticism for that is, well, shouldn't that happen with all the packs? But of course, as we know, a lot of times, a lot of the swatches just haven't matched. But I've noticed in the past couple packs, they've really put a lot more effort into making everything match. So they are listening to our complaints, and I really do appreciate that. So with the bunk bed, what you put under the bunk bed slots together so that if you move the bed, it will actually move what you placed underneath it. Obviously not if you have the move objects cheat on and you're just placing a bunch of random clutter underneath. But if you're putting things underneath like a dresser, another bed, a desk, when you click on the bed, you can actually move everything together, which makes things a lot faster if you want to reposition them. And as you'll see in the rest of this live stream, they showed several other locking mechanisms like this that are brand new to the game that are so time-saving and really exciting. And I don't know whether it's only going to be part of this pack or if it's going to be more of a base game update and work across all packs. With this bunk bed slotting, it will, but with the other mechanisms we're going to go into, I'm wondering if it's only to this pack or if it's going to incorporate every other pack too. So the bunk bed now has a gear icon on it like countertops in the kitchen, and you can choose what version of the ladders you want. So normally it automatically will change ladders for you. So if you put it up against a wall, it will put the ladder on the opposite side, but you can actually turn that automated feature off and choose the ladder where you want it to be if you wanted it to have ladders on both sides, even if you put it up against the wall. So at least there's that option. And toddler beds can slot underneath bunk beds as well. So basically anything anything that seems to be 2 tile wide will slot underneath the bunk bed and it will still be usable. Toddlers don't get their own new bed with this pack, which is a bit of a bummer. We don't get much content for toddlers in packs, and I would have really liked them to include more toddler stuff, but at least the pack does, I mean, toddler stuff is very brightly colored, but there are some neutralish kind of tones that did seem to look okay with this new pack, so at least there's that. The bunk beds also have object collections when you're looking through the menu, where the bunk beds will be pre-matched with other desks and objects already put together, so that you don't have to go separately into the desk menu and find your own desks and chairs and stuff like that. You can actually have this pre-made object collection to make things quicker. For the kids tent, this new kids tent activity, so at least there's that for toddlers and kids, so that's something new. You can play in it. I do really wish it came in a neutral swatch. It seems to come with, I think, 5 swatches, and it does have a hand-painted version, which is kind of fun. I really would have loved some neutral swatches, like just a plain beige one or white one, or just something that you can tie into if you're you know, like some of those really trendy kids and toddler rooms that you see on like Pinterest or whatever, where everything is very sleek looking, everything is very like whether it's a bohemian style, whether it's modern, contemporary, whatever, it just has this really professional look to it. And I know that kids stuff is usually brightly colored and has very murals on it and stuff like that, but it would have really been nice to have some neutral swatches, which unfortunately it doesn't. But children and toddlers can play in it, and pets can also go and sleep in there too, although you can't control your pets to go in there, they just automatically do it when they feel like it. And adults can actually scare your kids from the outside of the tent. So of course it wouldn't be Sims unless they add a bit of fun trauma to it. Moving over to the kitchen, there's now separate stovetops and separate ovens, and they just quickly went on this and then went into more detail later, but they did mention that, like, so for example, the way that likes and dislikes work, if you have a Sim that hates cooking and you make them cook for a long time, they will lose fun while doing it, and they will do the bare minimum to have quick meals instead of grand meals. So whenever you do what you like whenever you have your Sims do what they like or dislike, it unlocks a new category to talk about it, to complain or enthuse about it. So let's say that you forced your Sim to cook when they hate cooking, they can then have the option to discuss with someone, and it's called bemoan. So you can bemoan cooking or whatever, and you can have a good moan and a good complaint, and you can complain to another Sim about how miserable you were doing that activity. And same with if you really like something, you can geek out about it and enthuse about it. So that's a fun new feature, so that instead of just having an emotional reaction to things, you can discuss it with another Sim and have a conversation about it. And like and dislikes can be viewed under the traits category. You can change traits whenever you want by jumping in and out of CAS. A similar thing happens with music. If you listen to something your Sim doesn't like, they will get tense. Although in the live stream, the Sim was still jamming to it, but eventually she looks angry while dancing. And is angry dancing a new thing? Because it is hilarious to watch, and I've never seen it before, so I don't know if it's a new thing or not. You guys will have to let me know. But it's really funny when your Sim is angry, but they're still doing the dances to the music. So the delay was a bit slow, but I love how there are now greater negative reactions to things. Like, a lot of us have been asking, especially you game players, have been asking for more consequences to Sim behavior, and it seems like this pack is really starting to go down that path, which is really exciting. So of course you still get the positive reactions to things, but there's a lot of new consequences to negative reactions. You can add, and you can also add likes and dislikes through gameplay. So there's this feature that as you're doing an activity, if your Sim is enjoying themselves doing it, or I don't know if it does it for if your Sim doesn't like doing it as well, but they only showed it for if your Sim does like it, a prompt will come up on the screen to ask you if you want to add it to your likes, and you can choose okay or not to. So I think that's what they meant about don't fill up all 20 slots in CAS with your likes and dislikes, because you can actually add things through gameplay, and you can always change them later though. So you can always delete stuff if you don't want them anymore, or add new stuff. There's also additional likes and dislikes with different packs too. They didn't really go much into detail, so we're probably just going to have to explore that when we test the pack out for ourselves, and I'll definitely try and do that. Now, when you're interacting with NPCs, after a friendly introduction, you can ask random NPCs what their favorite things are based on the likes and dislikes categories, and you can find out their decor style. So this is even outside of doing a gig, outside of trying to decorate for a specific household. You can actually get to know them outside of that and find out what their likes and dislikes are, and they can also react to the decor if they like it or dislike it. So because of this preference system, Sims that you're going to interact with are going to be interacting with the environment around them, and they're going to have like the thought bubbles and emotive responses to whether they like or dislike the decor around them. Now, there's a new TV channel for the Home Decorators channel, and it gives you a confident boost watching it to help you with your gig. So that will actually boost your performance when you go in to decorate the home. And if you're not a decorator, it will just inspire your Sim. So it'll be inspirational for a non-decorating Sim, and it will boost confidence if you are a decorating Sim. And they showed us the HD versions of the 2 new TV shows on the home decorating channel, and they showed like a one that mimics a lot of home decor shows, and then they showed a really crazy one where the person decorated everything terribly. So that was amusing to watch. They briefly touched on the closet system before digging further into it later on, and they told us that clothing is actually separate from the bar. So you see the clothes hanging on the bar, well, the clothing is actually separate from that. So you can change them out. Everything is modular to mix and match. You can change the direction the clothes are hanging in even, and some are monochromatic collections so that it will help with clients' color preferences and help earn you points with clients. So they did it on purpose where like you'll get all the clothes are blue or whatever, but that will actually help boost your performance when it comes time to the client critiquing your work, which I'm just really excited because I think SimGuru Ninja posted on Twitter that there are 16 different color swatches for the clothes. So that's really exciting because you guys know the base game hanging clothes are very limited. So now we get this really cool collection. And then they moved on to talk about that you can actually get fired from your gig if you're mean, if you smell, like if you have bad hygiene, if you do questionable things like using their house, like using their shower, if you steal from them, if you act gross, like they talked about, like if you fart in front of them, if you change into the buff, like if you're nude, if you start fighting, all of these things can actually get you fired. But they did say during the time period that the client is away from the home while you're decorating it, if you are a kleptomaniac, you can actually steal stuff during that time. And they didn't really go into detail about if the sim would know, if your client would actually notice if stuff has been stolen. So I don't know, but that might be really fun to look into. And again, I'm loving that there are actual consequences, and I'm more of a builder than a game player, but this pack is actually making me want to get into gameplay more, which is really exciting to me. So then they discussed how gigs actually work. So here's what happens. When you arrive at your gig, you can get to know them through conversation to discover what their likes are. You can skip this step of getting to know their likes and dislikes if you want to. You can, what they said, go in blind and hope for the best with your design without knowing what their likes and dislikes are. But it's better to go through that gameplay just because it's more fun and it will help you out. As you level up, you will get better at finding out likes and dislikes faster. So there's progression in the gameplay as you advance. So it actually helps if you boost your career level, you're going to get a lot faster and more intuitive about how to get them to open up about their likes and dislikes, which is really cool. And you can actually also start to sway the Sims preference as you level up. So as you level up, you can actually influence what their likes and dislikes are. They didn't really show us, they just told us. So hopefully that's a really fun feature in the gameplay. But they did mention one caveat is that you can only convince them of things they have in their preferences. So if they don't specify if they like or dislike a color, like let's say, like they showed Johnny Zest, and all of his likes and dislikes were based on activity. So he didn't like mixology, and I can't remember the other ones, but he had very specific likes and dislikes that pertained to activities, but none of that specified what color he liked and disliked. So you can't really sway him on what color he likes and dislikes because he hasn't specified it. You can only sway their preference if it's already been stated what they like and dislike. But if something is not listed on their preferences for the gig, you can discover what they like through conversation. So if you have additional conversation, you can actually uncover some additional likes and dislikes that aren't listed. So that's really cool. And if you're doing a gig for groups, the likes, dislikes are randomly pulled from all of them. So each time you go to the gig, you will get a different mix each time. And think about it. I don't know if they've programmed 20 likes and dislikes for every NPC. I'm assuming that they did. That means that if you've got a household of 4 different Sims, there's 80 different likes and dislikes to pull from, which means every time that you go back into redecorating that home, different save files or even the same save file, you're always going to come up with a different selection of likes and dislikes, which is awesome because that means that it's always going to feel new and different, and it's not going to feel like, oh, I already renovated their room, I already know what they like and dislike. No, every time you go in, it's going to be different. Okay, then what you do is you can send them out. There's a prompt to send them away so that you can get started building. But keep in mind, you can't learn anything new about their likes and dislikes if you send them away. So make sure that you've had plenty of conversation with them first before you send them away. And then you can take before photos before you start building. And the camera mechanism, they've added some new cool features, and they've given a fisheye lens option to take more panoramic pictures of the rooms before you redecorate so that you can get the entire view into that shot. And then you can save those pictures on a drive that's put in your inventory, and that will come in handy later, which is really exciting, and we'll talk about that in a second. And there's also some hotkeys for photos. So when you're taking a photo, you can use the arrow keys to move around, you can use the mouse to swivel, and you can use the Q key to go down and the E key to go up. So basically the same as when you go into tab mode. And the minimum requirement is to take 3 photos, but you can take as many as you like. And the reason that that's fun, as you'll see later, is it gets turned into this really cool montage. Then you jump into build mode and start decorating. And there's a new category in build mode where you click on the house icon in the top left corner, which gives you all the details on what you can do. And they did this on purpose so that we wouldn't have to keep jumping in and out of live mode and build mode. All the information you need about your client's preferences will be up there in the left hand corner when you click on the house icon. Now in build mode, you will be restricted to the room or floor that your gig is about. So there are different restrictions. So if you're only doing a renovation for a room, every other room in the house will be out of bounds, inaccessible. You won't be able to touch those ones. And then if you open up that panel, like we just talked about in the left-hand corner, you can actually click on the like and dislike icons listed from your client, and it will pull up objects in the build by menu that fit that category. So think about this. They have gone through every single object in the menu and they've put it into the categories of everybody's likes and dislikes. Like, I can't even fathom how long that must have taken to organize everything. So in that regard, this is like expansion pack level when it comes to how much it interacts with objects from every other pack, every other world. And so originally I asked the question, is this worth a game pack or is it just a glorified stuff pack? And this really answers that question. So I think some people were irritated by me asking that question, but from the original trailer, I just didn't know, like, is this just going to be a pack where there's a ton of build by objects? And don't get me wrong, as a builder, I love having tons of build by objects, but at the same time, for it to feel like a game pack, I felt like it needed to have a lot more gameplay than what it seemed like the trailer was revealing. But through this live stream, there is just so much detail to this that I think it really is worth game pack level, maybe even more than that. So this is very exciting. So yes, everything has been categorized to make it easy, and you can even click on what they dislike and it will pull up that category. So like they used Johnny Zest and they clicked on that he doesn't like mixology, and it brings up all the bar tables and it brings up all the bar counters, and you can purposefully put stuff in their homes that they don't like if you want to. I mean, it's going to give you a horrible performance review, but it's still fun. Now for this pack, they said they put a lot of emphasis on kitchens and provided 2 full kitchens. Now normally we're lucky if we get 1 full kitchen, because as they've mentioned before, with kitchen cabinets and counters, they're not just giving you one object. There's several versions with multiple swatches for each of those countertops, and there's also the locking mechanism that they have to program, and they have to make sure all the surfaces are perfectly streamlined so that when you put them together, they're absolutely smooth. So a lot of work goes into making kitchens, which is why we very rarely get new kitchens and why usually it comes with an expansion pack. We do have some game packs that have come with kitchens, and it usually only comes with 1 style and limited swatches, but in this one they actually provided 2 full kitchen versions, so 2 versions of cabinets and counters and islands. And I don't think they actually meant like kitchen sets, because there are no new fridges or sinks, but there are 2 different interchangeable stovetops, and they can be put on any countertop. So anywhere you want to put them, you can put them. And then there are 2 full ovens to put into the counters, which are like the front, I keep wanting to say front loading like it's a washing machine, but like the ones that you can access from the front. And they added the convection oven / toaster oven, whatever you want to call it, that you can put on this countertop, and it functions a lot like a microwave, although it has different animations, but like where you can position it is the same as where you'd put a microwave. But something to keep in mind is that your food options will be limited to the ovens you have. So if you don't have both the stovetop and the front loading whatever oven, you will be limited on what you can cook. So obviously you won't be able to bake anything if you only have a stovetop oven. Now for the actual gig, you can increase your budget by selling off items in the space you're renovating. So that's exciting to know, because I'm really going to struggle to keep within a budget. Then they jumped over to sectional sofas, which of course we are all super excited about. And they actually provided 2 different styles of sectional sofas. And there's a new chaise lounge, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, that you can add to it. And it has an auto, like all these sectional pieces have an auto mechanism like the kitchen counters. And if you layer one on top of each other at different angles, it will automatically create a corner, which saves tons of time and it just looks fun. And there's 8 different pieces that are provided with and without backs to them. And there's also a single version of the sofa to use as a separate chair. So for example, each of the sectional pieces, each of the 8 different pieces, if you have them separate from the modular unit, they can actually function as a separate piece of furniture. And some of them will actually have wooden sides that pop up so that you can have them separate as a chair. But then when you put them in with the rest of the modular pieces, it will blend together and those sides will drop down. So it's really exciting. And they've used the relax animation they recently added for beds for the extended part of the sectional. So the chaise part is now has that relax animation. And so what they mentioned is you can have a movie party with every sim leaning back in the extended size sectional, and you can have them all laid out so they're all laying back relaxing together. Okay, so then they jumped over to the modular shelving units, and at first I was not a fan. I don't know why, but in the trailers I just didn't like the way that they looked. I think because I was not sure if they were all going to have this rounded edge style, which is cool, but it's so specific. I didn't know if that was going to be something that would be fun to put in every single renovation that you do. But they created 2, so there's a rounded edge version and an angular edge version, and this mechanism, guys, is so exciting. They actually snap into place with each other, which is not only helpful for builders but also for new builders that find it challenging to come up with layouts. You can actually snap these pieces together, and the TV stand is on the wall for the first time, so that shelving unit functions as a TV stand, so you can have those wall TV units surrounded by shelving, which is exciting. And they wanted to customize the units for clients with lots of clutter items so that you can feature objects that match the preferences. So if you want to boost your points when it comes to having your client review and assess if you cater to their likes and dislikes, a great way to do that is to find clutter items that match the style or the color that they really love. And with all of these modular shelving units, you can now feature tons of those clutter items to boost your performance. And there's a sound effect that actually dings things when you have locked the pieces into the right location. Of course, if you've got the move objects cheat on or without the move objects cheat, you can put the shelving units wherever you want, but to seamlessly lock them in so that they're all at the same level that you want them to be, there's a dinging noise to help alert you that you've put it into the right position, which I think is excellent. And get this, guys, you can move everything as an entire group. If you hold the original piece you placed, it will be highlighted so you can tell. It's called the parenting system, and if you click on the original parent object, all objects will highlight so you can move the entire thing around as a unit. I mean, how many times have we built something and positioned everything and then realized, oh, I just want it a little bit further to the left or to the right, up, down, whatever, and then you have to go through each object and reposition everything. Well, now this new locking mechanism, I don't know whether it's exclusive to this pack or if it's going to be a new mechanism that they're going to later add to other packs or even base game or whatever, but now, at least with this pack, you can move everything around as one group. But wait, there's more, and it's not for $19.99, although the entire pack is $20, so. But anyway, you can actually still move individual pieces, but you can also move entire sections at a time. So not the whole section you've created, but even parts of that grouping system. You can move them as little separate pieces. So let's say you just want to move 3 of the pieces over, you can just move 3 of the pieces over. They didn't go into super detail about how to do those individual little sections, but they just showed us doing it, and it kind of looked like a Tetris game. It was very satisfying. But again, wait, there's more. It's not limited to wall shelving. You can also do it with the coffee table and desks and dressers. All of those things can lock together and you can move them around as full groups, full units. So the parenting and locking mechanism that they've created for this pack works with floor objects too and moves them around. They quickly went over the clutter, so we have separate shoes with a ton of swatches, shoe boxes, baskets, decorator book clutter, which I'm very excited about, and there's also clutter that is unlockable as you progress in the career, which is a laptop. You can gain a laptop through your career, a mood board, and some magazines. Now, if you go over budget, you can still place objects, but you get a warning that you're over budget where the budget turns red to let you know. Then when you're finished decorating to your heart's content, you can take after photos. And if you can't remember where you were standing, the original position you took the photo, there's a new mechanism. I tell you what, there are so many new mechanisms with this pack, it's incredible. When you click on the floor, that will take your sim to the location of the original photo to take a new photo, unless there's an object on the location you were previously standing on, but it will at least take you as close to that location as possible. And you can also take before photos in build mode anytime you want, and they even suggested you can add junk to add to the drama of the before versus the after photos. So instead of just taking a photo of what it actually looked like before, you can go in and clutter it up and make it look super weird, just to make the reveal montage look way cooler. And then after you've got all your before and after pictures, you can select photos for the reveal. You can select your favorite ones, and you can even put filters on the pictures. I don't know if there's more than one filter. They just showed a sepia filter where they made it look even grungier with that brown tone filter on top of it for the before photos. And then you can call your client to come back in 3 different ways. You can click on your sim, you can use your cell phone, and you can use the gig interface to call your sim back, and then you can host a reveal event. So they created reveal animations to match TV decorating shows like gasping, closing, covering their eyes, being shocked, all that kind of stuff. So that's really fun. And so with Johnny Zest, when they did the reveal for him, he was covering his eyes, and then a montage of the photos you took play like on a TV show with music and transitional animations. So they've come up with their own music in the background and these really cool animations that just make it feel like it really is on a TV show and that they're showing the before and after, and it's very dramatic. And then you can show off the objects and see their reaction. Now, they will look around for a bit and then give a final reaction. And when they're ready to give their final reaction, a checklist icon pops up above the sim's head to let you know they're ready to give their final verdict. And then you end, whether they liked it or they didn't like it, you end with a handshake. I don't know if they give you a handshake if you didn't like it, actually. But anyway, some sort of animation happens and you get your cash and then you can go home. Again, they reiterated that professional reputation will affect the gigs available. And the better your professional reputation is, the more it will open you up to gigs like celebrities. So if you own Get Famous, it ties into these other packs. So they didn't go over all the packs, but I'm really excited to see what kind of gigs open up or are closed off based on the different packs that you own. So if you have a great reputation, but you failed a gig, that sim might actually contact you back to try again. So professional reputation is really important, and it means that even if you fail a gig, you can still, it won't completely destroy your reputation, and it means that if you have the good reputation, you'll be able to go back and fix your mistakes. So that's cool. You can also self-promote to boost your reputation with books and articles that you write, and you can catch the attention of a brand or home decorating network, which will boost your reputation. And then that was pretty much the stream. They didn't show much in build because the focus was on gameplay, so we'll have to wait and see what all the objects are June 1st, and I will be sure to do a full review of the pack when it comes out. So my final thoughts are this: I am way more excited than I originally was because the gameplay seems really engaging, and as they said, it's a great way to bridge the gap between builders and game players, as it will help game players who don't usually build to try their hand at building, and it will help builders to get more into playing in live mode, which I think is a genius idea. So I had reservations about this pack at first. I do appreciate that even though the very specific mid-century modern style isn't personally my style, I mean, there are elements of it that I really do like, they have provided different options with the modular sofas and with the custom closets and modular shelving units and even the kitchen, that it incorporates at least a different version of it so that when you're doing your own renovations, they will all have a very unique style, even if you're using the same kind of pieces. So the style is definitely growing on me. I really appreciate that they stuck with more neutral type of color schemes. I mean, there's still the bright colors, but it has more of a neutral feel because it has more of a pastel tone, and that way it will be able to be incorporated with a lot of different styles and a lot of different packs. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Are you excited about this pack? I'm getting excited about it, and I'm usually a fantasy builder, so I'm really pumped to get into the gameplay for this and do some let's plays with this, and yeah, I'm really pumped. So again, the game update that will update a lot of these features before we get the pack is in a couple days on May 27th, so keep an eye out for that. And of course, until the next video, guys, I love you so freaking much.